All right, everyone, welcome to Blitz with Blinder. I'm Josh Blinder today, joined by Jamarcus. We're going to break down this past week of college football and look ahead into this week. We got to start off with the news. Brian Kelly just got fired. Jamarcus, what are your first initial thoughts on our man getting fired down in Baton Rouge?
Well, first thing I'm always say is I'm not a fan of coaches getting fired midseason because it sets the program back, right? I think it sets them back with recruits, players already on the staff. But at the same time, Brian Kelly had to go. I mean, he said he was leaving Notre Dame to go win a national championship. Never made the college football playoffs. If anything, his stock went down. Like his best shot was with Jaden Daniels. You had Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and you couldn't put a defense out there that could stop a cold. Now, if you didn't think you can win a national championship or compete with that team, what made you think differently? So I think this one was kind of warranted. Like I said, I hate to see it, but this is one of the ones where it's just like the SEC is a different monster. Like those fans are not patient. The patience does not exist down there.
Absolutely. It's a little bit different from up north, and I feel for him, but again, that's a place where you got to go win. And you have a history of coaches at that program that had success and won national championships. The last three guys that were there, it's really fascinating to me because when you get rid of a coach, you've got someone else in mind. Right now, there's I think some premier openings. Got Penn State available. We got Florida coming up. It looks like maybe another good program. Auburn might be seeing a coaching change, depends on how their season wraps up. So this is one of the best sort of off seasons for coaches to make those jumps. Who do you like for the LSU job? Is there anyone that you could see filling in there or anywhere you're leaning for Penn State or Florida right now?
I mean, I'll say Lane Kiffin, honestly. I mean, Lane Kiffin, you see what he's doing at
For LSU.
yeah, for LSU.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
LSU or Florida, but I think more so LSU. I mean, what he's able to do at Ole Miss is impressive, but long term, I don't know how if he'll be able to sustain that. But you go to LSU, I mean, you got Texas right there in your backyard. You got, Mississippi still talent from, and then LSU, a premier program, you can start getting those recruits from, you know, Pennsylvania or the West Coast with California in the mix and Arizona. So to me, I would probably lean more so Lane Kiffin or go back and call Urban and see if he wants to wants
Yeah,
to wants
good
to come back.
fire.
But in reality, all reality, I think those schools, Penn State, LSU, Florida, they don't want an up and coming coach. All these programs want a coach who's had a pedigree of winning and
Yeah.
has already done it. Because I mean, it's hot down there right now. I mean, you coming down there, the job you coming to is hot. So
Yeah,
all that be
yeah,
said,
coming in there to the SEC to a program like man, LSU is a top five program. You mentioned Texas, I'd put them up there right now. Of course, the Buckeyes, Georgia, Bama, and I'd say probably USC because of California and just how many talented kids come out of that state and UCLA where that program is right now and
right?
the other academics across. So I think you'd have to go with them as well in the top five. But LSU's been a top five program. It will be for a long time. Let's go over this
Mm.
past weekend though, man. We had a lot of
Wait,
big
real quick, what names would you drop in that bucket for LSU and Florida?
for LSU. I think that you throw the bag at Lane. He's one. You need offense down there. It's to me looked like a team that has struggled to find an identity. I know Garrett's really not been healthy the entire season, but what about the job Lane did? He loses his starting quarterback, Austin Simmons, and then Trinidad steps in from Ferris State, and he's played at an unreal level. I think play callers, guys that have their system, I really believe that this offense has been a little bit stale. You see the offensive coordinator Sloan, he gets fired too. I want Lane at LSU, and I believe he could do a better job. Florida. They have enough talent. It's just they're going to have to be competing with Miami, competing with Florida State year in, year out. USF's now looking nice. I just believe that LSU competition's great for a program as far as recruits go, but there's something that's an echelon where LSU's above it. I want Lane for that role. I love the idea of A Brian Hartline going to Penn State. I think that his ties to the North and his recruiting ability as someone that's a Buckeye fan, I would hate to see that, but I truly think that he would be ready to take that step. He's got that ability to bring in the highest amount of talent. Doesn't matter where those kids come in from across the country. And then for Florida, I mean, and Eli Drinkowitz, someone like that at Missouri, I think bringing him over, that's probably where I would loan first.
Let me say this: the last thing on the coaching carousel. I want to say Dion to Florida because he's from Florida, but
Yeah.
they're getting beat up so bad over there at Colorado. I don't even know if I mean I don't even know if he'll finish the season
I
over
would
there. But
love to see Coach Prime
but if Coach
at
Prime was to go to Florida and string
Coach.
along like that would be that's one of those that he's underachieved. I mean he's achieved highly 9-3 last year, 9-4 from what Colorado was. But if he takes his attention, his notoriety to the University of Florida, that program, he'll have that Indiana turnaround. Honestly,
Yeah, man, you gotta respect a team like Indiana just locking down Coach Sig. He gets paid his bag and certainly earned every penny of that. They take that, man, the way he's done with that team, and you look at the roster composite what they have, and they're competing at this level right now. But no,
and
I like that.
I love Coach Sig because he talks shit and he backs it up though.
Yeah, he
Like
absolutely
I've won
does.
everywhere. Google me, and then he's doing
And
it.
he does it, man. There's nothing better than talking your stuff and then backing that up. So we kind of went through the coaching cycle here. I gotta bring up because Texas has a big one this week. They got a massive game. Obviously, seasons have been hinging on the brink for a couple of weeks. Red River, they go out there and they shut down John Mateer. Right, they back it up with a sloppy performance against Kentucky, but they get the job done in overtime. And then this past week, Mississippi State down 17 points in the fourth quarter. They find a way to win games. We talked about a little bit on Saturday night about the makeup of a team that finds a way. I just care about wins. I'm sure all you care about wins. How does Texas find a way to get a dub against Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt this weekend?
I'm a Longhorn through and through. First things first. The health of Arch. Arch is not practicing today. He's in concussion protocol, so that'll be interesting to see. So Caldwell will get the first team reps, and I mean he came in the clutch, threw a touchdown, and call game. Texas, I mean, it's. I'll tell people all the time, it's we were spoiled with Quinn, and the big name with Arch behind it. I mean, two semifinals in a row. Obviously, the next step is the Natty. And we're kind of going through it's a learning curve for Arch, So I think offensively the offense has to put the defense in a better position. So I mean, you have to stay ahead of the chains. Have a third and manageables. You don't need to be. It's hard to complete third and longs all game long, right? So I mean, Diego Pavia, even last year when we played them down there in Vandy, that game was a dog fight. But the biggest thing is limiting that run. You go because the run's gonna open up the pass. That's how they play. If you get down early, you're not going to come back versus Vandy because they're going to bleed the clock. They're going to play. They're going to have these long, methodical drives, 10 play, 12 play drives at 8, 6, 7 minutes of the clock. So the biggest thing I'll say is going to have to be a fast start, and it's going to be they have to turn into a grinded out, ground and pound game. You got to activate the run game. So the biggest keys I would say is stay ahead of the chains, and you have to find a way to have over 150 yards rushing to even compete. If not, Vandy might come in there and win convincingly, like 31-14.
Absolutely. I think we can sort of see the way this one's going to go with Texas on offense, Vandy on defense. They got some players. I love Miles Capers on that defensive front for the Commodores. But I think the biggest question mark is how does Pavia play against that Texas front that's getting after it? I think Colin Simmons is probably a top 10 pick in April 2027. But it's not just him. They're dealing with the health issues of Taft. This secondary has been suspect a little bit this season. I think that the expectations were higher for that unit. And again, that sort of ties in to pressure on the quarterback. We were expecting this to be the pinnacle of the sport on that side of the ball. So how do they contain Pavia in their lanes in integrity? You have to have Anthony Hill play his darn butt off in this one. If he's not at the top of his game, right, you're looking at lanes. He's the type of athlete that can remove Diego from this one, or if you just keep him inside the pocket and make him deliver. It's not that he hasn't, but it's going to definitely be a little bit easier on that side. Keep him in the pocket and force him to hit Cheryl on the outside, and
Yeah, you're
Stowers is
gonna
going to make some plays, man. We
yeah
talked
you're
about
gonna need the
Stowers, and
pass rush to you're gonna need the pass rush from Colin Simmons and Alex January to really hit home. If not, because I think their game plan they're gonna allow Texas to be as aggressive as possible, so we can just run draws and misdirection all day long. We're gonna let you get upfield just to go underneath you.
yeah, yeah. I think for Sark in this one, it's more about like when you look at the last week and how that one sort of got away from him. I think he wants to play a four-quarter game and keep this one close. And whoever's at the starting quarterback position, it's about not making that mistake. I am curious though, because Arch was able to step up, threw for over 300 yards last week, and he looked good almost when the pressure mounted. That's been his game this year, second half, fourth quarters, where he's played his best. It's almost like he's loosened up and played better against the Buckeyes. Fourth quarter, he played well. Against Kentucky, he played his best ball. So it's interesting to me that sometimes is the largest factor. It's like, all right, shoot, we don't have much game time left here, nothing to lose. And that mentality leads to him playing better. Let's sort of pivot here. That's a huge matchup this weekend going forward. I want to go over this past week, though. I thought that Ole Miss showed the country that this offense can move the football against anybody. The talk about Oklahoma was incredible and deserved. That was a top two defense in the country statistically, and they go right down the field. The opening possession put points on the board on the defensive side of the ball for Ole Miss, the limiting material. What are you seeing out of Ole Miss, and do you really think this is a team that not just can make the playoff because it does look like they will, but be actually in that picture to maybe win the SEC or be a natty contender?
Yeah, I think that one person has been a difference maker, and it's Chambliss. Like
Yeah.
that dude is his dual threat ability is allows his offense to play free and flow. My biggest thing that's gonna hurt them is they just got to figure out that secondary. They always have a lot of bust. Not always on the same page. And pass rush is not they're not really getting after nobody. But I mean, I feel like the key components of a good team is getting the stop when needed. And in most games besides the Georgia game, they've been able to do that. So I got them being. I don't have them being like a real threat, but I think they can potentially make a. I say their ceiling is a semifinal.
Because I'm curious if you put neutral field Ole Miss versus Miami right now, who would you take winning that game?
I got a shootout, but I'll probably have to say Ole Miss.
Okay.
I'll say Ole Miss in the shootout. It'll probably be like a 49-42 type of game. I don't see no defense played in that
Okay,
game.
so you're more on the side that Ole Miss is going to need to win scoring 35 plus points against anybody really in the playoff. If they get deeper past, looks like they can probably get a home game in their building, but quarters, semis, if they want to beat one of those Georgias or Alabama, they're going to have to score a bunch of points. Speaking of
Yeah,
Bama, I mean, man, I thought that before that drive for Simpson at the end, I was saying that this could be a little bit of a Heisman moment. Down by 8 points on the road, stadium's on fire there. I know it's South Carolina and what they've been this season. They still got a whole bunch of talent, and that's still a moment, right? On the road in the SEC, takes them down the field. They score, get the 2 point conversion. He's my number one quarterback in the country right now. I think he's on a lot of people's just because of his willingness to attack the middle of the field. He struggled with some accuracy in that game, and I thought that was fine to see from the young quarterback. But from Ty Simpson, what have you seen? Do you think he could be the first quarterback taken in April? What do you like about Ty?
I think Ty has definitely grown on me. I mean, before the season started, even the Florida State game, I was like, eh. But I mean, he just went down that gauntlet in that stretch versus Tennessee, at Missouri, versus Vandy, versus Georgia. I mean, he showed that he's battle tested. And then even back to the South Carolina game, that is the testament of a good team. Those big games, players show up for those, right? but it's the trap games like the South Carolinas of the world. It's the trap games like the Arkansas, the games where you kind of like you can play down to their level, right? You know, they play down to their level the majority of that game, but when it mattered, he came up clutch. So I think Ty, the way he's delivering passes in the pocket, he's making a lot of plays inside the pocket, which unlike a lot of these college quarterbacks aren't. I think his accuracy has been pretty good. They're getting Ryan Williams involved more. Their best receivers Bernard
Hmm.
and Horton. Those guys. I think they're a complete team. I mean, the game went how it went because no Jam Miller. He was hurt, so I had a feeling their run game was going to be kind of non-existent, in which it was. But like I said, good quarterbacks find a way to win, and good teams find a way to win. So I think Todd Simpson draft stock has definitely went up, especially with how bad a lot of these quarterbacks have underachieved, like the Garretts and the Sellers and
A good point.
the Drew Allars being out for the season. So his stock is definitely, I would say, up.
Absolutely. And speaking of Drew, man, that I believe is one of the largest letdowns from a team that really you can remember. I know people want to be quick to say that about Texas, but hey, look, they got everything they want to do ahead of them. Only one SEC loss right now. But think about Penn State and everything they had coming back and what this game, this upcoming Saturday, was supposed to be at the Shoe in Columbus. We were thinking it could be one versus two, certainly two versus three, a top five matchup, a lot on the line, maybe a Big Ten spot on the line between those teams. And where it is now, I think that this is the type of cataclysmic event for this Penn State program that either can help them, right? You're able to, it's like the Serengeti back in the day, and they have that event, and then it turns into, a lush sort of paradise out there. I visited out there in August. It's a pretty special place to be. Or it turns into, I guess if you watch Lord of the Rings, it's just Mordor and nothing grows out of there for the next 20 years. That program's just out there in the desert and they got nothing to work with as programs like Michigan and Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State just remain at a level if they can't figure it out. I think that they pulled the trigger, in my opinion, and they sort of had to. They were forced to because of the two losses. But as a fan, it's disappointing because as an Ohio State fan, I wanted to see an undefeated Penn State coming in full force, looking great. Get ready for a bigger game. Now, when you're a 17-point favorite, you're expected to win. It doesn't have the same sizzle. What do you make of that game? Do they present any threat whatsoever to to the Buckeyes, to Indiana on that schedule? Is this just a team that's that's wandering through it right now until they get a new coach?
I think it's a team that's just decimated, honestly. Like it's just from morale. And everybody bags on James Franklin. I mean, he brought that program from dark times, right? I laughed at James Franklin calling big game James. He always pisses down his leg, but at the same time, I like James Franklin. Like I mean, yeah, he couldn't win the big games, but it was always a dogfight. I mean, look back to the Ohio State Penn State game last year. Gave him a fighting chance at the end of that game last year. I mean, double OT loss to Oregon earlier this year, bringing them back from a lackluster offensive performance. So now I just think this is just another game for Ohio State. The next big game for Ohio State is going to be the game, the team up north. So I, I I think this is, if anything, this is just more of a confidence booster and builder for um, you know um, Julian Sayin and those wideouts. Unfortunately,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just a matter of continuing to build his confidence. It's going to be sky high. I mean, there's nothing really that's going to phase a kid from Southern California playing quarterback.
mm-mm.
Especially with that group of receivers, but offensive line. I mean, they've only given up 3 sacks on the season. I agree. And I'm very happy to see Michigan coming along right now because you talk about being tested. A team like Alabama, their quarterback, why everyone is putting them at the top and not having any issues with it is because who they've played and what they've done the past 4, 5 weeks after that bad week one, and they've pretty much just turned into a bona fide contender. As far as the Buckeyes, like you're looking at that Michigan game on the road, you're hoping Michigan, in my opinion, continues to rise. Maybe they're a top 15 by the time the game goes down, and that Bryce Underwood looks like a legit true freshman monster, and they're in a spot where they beat Ohio State. They're in the college football playoff at 10-2. I no doubt think that they would be in a position. Michigan probably wants Washington to keep winning. Do you think that the the Big Ten can get four teams in here? I want to talk a little bit about the playoff dynamics. We haven't touched on fully with the ACC and Big 12, but it really seems like there's been this this tier, right? The tier one, Oregon, Ohio State, obviously Penn State falls off. And this second tier, what do you make of that? Do you think Michigan is that second tier and they're that team that can sort of try and push through? Because you've got the USC's, your Nebraskas, they play this weekend. Washington just got kind of manhandled by Michigan on the road, and then they come out and play a nice game against Illinois, who beat USC, who beat Michigan. It's like this circular sort of mayhem going on down there in the second tier. What can you make of the chaos in that second level of the Big Ten?
I mean, let's touch on Nebraska first. Even if they were to win out, they don't have the resume to make the playoffs. They would need it's out of their control. They need a lot of other teams to kind of just lose. I mean, they got manhandled by Minnesota, and then Minnesota loses 41-3 at Iowa this weekend. So, I mean, I think the second tier. I mean, my top teams. Let me ask you your first question: can the Big Ten get four teams in? Yes, absolutely. The Big 12 is only going to get one team in. The ACC maybe get two teams in, but I only see them getting one team in. I think the top conferences they'll get four teams in, SEC, Big Ten, and my Big Ten teams will probably be Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, and then coin flip for that 14. But maybe I lean towards Michigan. Um, I just don't. I just don't think it's in that second tier. It's just not that competitive, honestly. In that second tier, you could take all those teams and throw them in another conference, and they'll probably do the same thing that they're doing in the Big Ten. To be completely honest, but I mean, I'm honestly wondering will Oregon get in because Oregon has a big one at Iowa this weekend, and I have Iowa beating Oregon. So I was like, if Iowa beats Oregon, does Oregon season still is it over? So there's a lot of right now these conferences are a lot tighter than people expect.
Absolutely, man. Iowa's got the ability to sort of throw a wrench into, what they do on that offensive side of the ball. It's hard to watch, but they find a way to be competitive. I think their sort of season is going to come down to that loss to Iowa State really hurt them a
Yeah,
lot. And Rocco Becht, he's played at a good level. I've been disappointed by Iowa State overall. They come out the nice win week one against Kansas State. Actually, I'm gonna rephrase that. I've been disappointed with their ability in that conference to sort of provide depth at that second level. Right now, it just looks like Houston. It looks like Texas Tech. ASU's dealt with
BYU.
injuries. Right, BYU at the top there. Cincinnati, that's it. In years previous, it was like, man, the Big 12, anyone can win that conference. It felt like going into the season, I was going to throw Iowa State out there uh to pasture, but I'm not going to do that. I think it's that second wave of the Big 12 here. But who do you see in that conference right now? I think Texas Tech is the pick everyone wants, and they do control a little bit of their destiny. They got BYU on that schedule. It seems like the team, they've dealt with their own injuries at quarterback. They got some monsters on the defensive side of the football, maybe one of the better edge players in the country, and Bailey. Rodriguez, everybody loves this kid. He's probably a late day two,
Stud,
day three guy, absolute monster. Could be an
stud.
All-American, maybe in the Buckus conversation to win that award. I got Texas Tech there still because of their top end, healthy, what that team does, but can't be sleeping on Bear Bachmeier now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, everything you said was completely right on cue. But I can't lay my hat on Texas Tech until they find out, you know, what are they doing with that quarterback position? Because Hammond might play one game and then he might get banged up in the same game, right? So, the quarterback play, if you have a good quarterback, you have a chance. And Will Hammond, when he's on the field, it's a good quarterback. But
Mhm.
it's just like, in all respect, I can't lay my hat on Morton. He hasn't gotten the job done. And then when he plays, usually they've been able to run all over everybody, but they've been having injuries even at the running back position. D line's been a little banged up. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Arizona State, I thought they had a chance to come back into the forefront, but like you said, I mean, Sam Levitt goes out versus Utah. They get absolutely obliterated. Then he comes back and they get a good win versus Tech. And then you fast forward this weekend, no Tyson on the field. The offense didn't wake up until the fourth quarter. So it's just like that
I
conference.
know it makes you think what would have happened in that semifinal if they had Tyson on the field last year now, right?
Oh,
My
we're
man,
not gonna talk about that.
if they had
but
him,
but
if they
no,
had him, they had him out there. But
but in all regard though, and I always say this, and I'm not usually a fan of BYU, but at this moment, I think it's BYU's to lose. I mean, Houston got obliterated by Tech early in the year and lost. I think it was like 38 to 11 or 30. It was 31. It was a double digit loss. So I think at this point in time, you have to say it's BYU's to lose and to um, proven differently.
yeah, and it's in the ACC, a position where Miami is looking up and they're rooting for Virginia to stumble somewhere. And frankly, don't they need to stumble twice? Because that loss, they still hold that tiebreaker. And if they both finish up 11 and 1 and Virginia's got that tiebreaker, they're not going to be kept out of the ACC title game. And Miami's sitting there looking up at Georgia Tech. Doesn't look like that team's going to stumble. They when in that matchup against Duke, everyone was questioning why Duke was favored, and then Georgia Tech winds up pulling that one out by a nice margin. That's a Georgia Tech team with Haynes King that, with him healthy, they're able to compete at the top end with anyone. We're gonna see them probably at the end of the year against Georgia in a game where, man, that might only be a 4, 5 point margin in a neutral site is what it's looking like right now. Do you see Georgia Tech being able to run that table, find themselves in the ACC title game, and legitimately, can you buy them and Brent Key as a team coming out of the ACC that's a threat to somebody in the college football playoff? Or do you got to see them do it against Georgia at the end of the year to fully buy them?
Huh. That's an interesting one. So I'm looking at it right now. So Miami's seventh in that conference, right? So we go to Georgia Tech. I mean, their remaining schedules at NC State this weekend. You got Boston College, Pitt. Those games they should all take care of business. Versus Georgia, that's going to be a very telling game. But I think they've done enough. If Georgia's their only loss non-conference game, rivalry game at the end of the year, and they go into ACC championship and win it, then that's all they need to do.
Mhm.
Uh, my biggest thing is everything, like I said about the quarterback play, relies on King's hand. They run the offense through him. With quarterback runs and
Mhm.
the quick game, and the biggest thing is just keeping him healthy. They run him like 16, 20 times a game, and I love it because he's like a hard nosed East Texas country fat boy, but at the same time, that is your team. And the last thing you want to see is what was the quarterback at Florida State a couple of years ago? Jordan, that went to the Jets. They got hurt towards the end of the season,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
so that's the last thing.
Travis, Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis, yeah,
Yeah,
that's the last thing you want to see happen to them. The Jordan
exactly.
Travis thing. So thank you, Haynes King, upright and healthy. Then they have a chance to make a deep run into the playoffs. So um, right now, the remaining schedule is pretty soft. They have a couple trap games on there. Hopefully they don't play down to the level of competition. But I don't see them slipping right now.
What's to me, I think right now interesting is I'm sort of starting to slot Georgia Tech in. I don't believe that committee, let's say Georgia Tech was 11-1 with the loss to Georgia and they lose in the ACC title game. There's no way that you can take that team and keep them out of the CFP, in my opinion, completely just uh, putting them to the grinder because they lost in their conference championship game. Now, what I can see happening is a position where, let's say Virginia, because if you put them or pencil them in for one loss, Miami's sitting there at one loss. Virginia goes to that title game. Miami's been they've got some good wins now, right? USF is still on there, and you still have what Florida, who's we'll see kind of who they can throw a little bit of a haymaker into someone at the end of this season here. Notre Dame, obviously, who looks like they'll finish 10-2. It's gonna come down to the end. I can't at all try and predict the way that finishes just because of that loss now and the way Virginia they look like that was their shot for Miami right there. No, North Carolina 2-point conversion. Bill Belichick says he wants to go win the game right now, but North Carolina doesn't get it. Those types of weird, fluky type of things can end up really hurting you. I don't know. You could wind up with Georgia Tech undefeated, which I think is what you have to root for, or a Georgia Tech 11-1, and then Virginia at the. I just don't know with Miami. Their path now becomes really messy because you can't put three ACC teams in there. There's no shot you can have that. But man, are you in a position to put Virginia out with a win over Miami if Virginia were to lose to Georgia Tech in the playoff and they're 11-2? That's where I start having a little bit of trouble kind of
I think the
expecting
only pathway for Virginia is to win.
win the ACC.
Winning you're in. The committee doesn't have enough respect for them. I mean, they have them at 15. They had a bad loss early in the season to NC State.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, I don't know. You know how the committee goes too, though. They want the biggest names, biggest programs where
Sure.
fans will travel because of ratings too. You got to think where this is all money's involved. Ratings are involved. So and obviously they want the best team, the best product. But Virginia's not gonna get too much love if they don't take care of their business and win out.
So you're saying Virginia loses again, that kind of no
It's
matter
over.
what they do, if Miami goes 11-1, they'll find themselves a way to sneak in the back door, get
Oh,
themselves a spot in that
guar-
playoff.
guarantee.
I fully buy that. There's certain brands. There's a product people are talking about with there was I guess what was the scenario? It was Georgia Tech and another team here. It sort of went viral a tweet this past week. Do you remember that? Seeing that it was Georgia Tech and might have been USF.
I didn't see
Someone
that
was
one.
like, okay, seeing one of those two teams playing, and they're like, I don't want to see that. I don't care what teams get in. The beauty of the college football playoff now, what I love about it is honestly, I believe how it helps make the regular season so much more watchable for 10 times more games. We got 30 teams still fully alive without a doubt in this race down to the finish, whereas in years past, there's realistically only five or six right now. And if we were to just go through that real quickly, it would probably look like Ole Miss, Georgia, Bama right now, Ohio State, and it'd be like Miami's done. That one lost. They're finished for the season. Probably only like Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech probably they'd be left out of, you would think, a four-team playoff. I think this is just a far superior product. Do you think that they might try and get a little bit greedier and extend this out to more teams going forward? I think 12 is a very fine number, but if they put in a play-in format, I wouldn't have any issue with it. I don't mind more college football and more games, to be honest,
Yeah.
in overall. So what do
See,
you
my,
say?
my thing is if they extend it, you cut a regular season game out, right? Instead of 12, it'd be 11. Kind of like the FCS does it. I think they do a 24
Okay.
team playoff, 11 games, and I don't think they do a conference championship game. So they just go straight into the playoffs, and best record outright wins the entire conference. So it'll be a lot for discussion. I think if you do extend, you extend to 16. But the one thing I like that they did this year is the top four teams, the top four teams, right? They like it ain't oh, if you're the winner of the ACC, you get automatic bye or vice versa, right? So because now you're not gonna have no more Boise State's automatic bye if they're not the number four team in the nation, or SMU or not SMU. Who was the other team? It was Boise State and
Yeah,
Arizona State. Or
Arizona State with the bye
yeah,
last year.
you're not gonna have Arizona State the number three bye if they're not the number three ranked team in the nation, right? So now you're gonna have, Indiana, Ohio State, Bama, and then whoever is the fourth team after that. Those all have the bye, and I think that's the best way you kind of go about it. The top four teams ranked at the end of the season versus, oh, this is the ACC championship winner. They get automatic bye. SC automatic because there's a lot of like favoritism and things that come into that. I think the rankings should actually matter how they matter, and now that they showed that.
Without a doubt. Yeah, it's looking like A&M and Bama right now will be the two left standing there in that title game. I'm just curious how the I guess those games would go and what they do because if you have two undefeateds, Ohio State, Indiana, both in that game 12 and 0, the loser most likely is the 3 or the 4 seed. After that, like how impactful is that game? You saw how great it was for Oregon winning the Big Ten champ game, and they got to go play the winner of Tennessee and Ohio State. I'd have rather lost that game and been Penn State and go through that path of what they SMU and Boise is what they were looking at. I'd rather play those two teams and even have to play Tennessee last year, for being honest here. But overall, I do think this sport's headed in a great direction. The product for November, what we got coming up here, is going to be unbelievable. This weekend's just sort of the start where I think we're really seeing the top teams separate themselves, and then we're left to find a way to eliminate some others. November's always that month when it gets to it. You find out what teams are fully made of and where the direction will be headed. Any last thoughts from you before we wrap this up?
I would like to say too. I think the NIL has balanced college football. A lot of people like to cry and complain about it. Oh, players shouldn't make this. Players make the university so much money. Like they should be evenly compensated. And then that has allowed us to the coaching carousel. Penn State. Hey, we're playing. This is our best roster we've ever had. Apparently, allegedly on paper. We paid all this money to all these players. LSU, Florida, but we're not producing the product. Now these donors have more of a input, more of a voice, right? So now that's putting more pressure on these coaches. It's turning into this NFL model. It's hey, this is the money we're allocating. Show us the receipts of what we're getting our investment on our return. It's the product on Saturday. It's just showing it. So I think college football is heading into a very, 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 very great direction, and that's why you're getting the Virginians of the world starting to come into the forefront and
Mhm.
upset of Miami, and or you're getting tougher games and the SEC. SEC is all it was always Georgia, Bama, Florida over the years, LSU. You wasn't having, Vandy, like Vandy. That's a prime example. Look at the NIL. NIL, they're building an $80 million stadium, I believe, down there in Nashville. I mean, they're renovating the facilities for baseball. Diego Pavia has brought that program up to relevance. That was their first top 10 AP win as a top 10
Yeah,
team since 1947. I think the college football landscape the NIL has made college football that much more entertaining.
no doubt. No doubt. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. We'll be back next week. Best player in college football. That Georgia and Ohio State game, New Year's Eve, is going to be a classic.
Josh Blinder. Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Blinder. To the 40, 35, 30. Espinosa to the 20.